Talewind is a side-scrolling platformer that presents itself as a throwback to the old days, with a simple story to start and simple gameplay, and it's developed by the two-person Wind Limit Studios out of Lisbon, Portugal. It's not a particularly long game, but with the price under $10 and a few ways to challenge each level, there's enough reasons to take interest in this game. The story revolves around a village at the bottom of a mountain with unnaturally strong winds and a young boy who lives there. One day, the villagers notice the winds weakening, threatening their way of life, and in turn, the player character moves to investigate by climbing the mountain. Much of the story is told through interactions with stone tablets that espouse on the world mythology, but the narrative on display leaves a lot to be desired, and you may ultimately find yourself skipping tablets you haven't read as you progress through the game's 5 worlds. It doesn't help that there is no way to read entire passages after you discover them on your journey, meaning you'll have to rely on other sources to understand the fictional history. Other than that, the only thing to keep you hooked is the gameplay. Whether or not that occurs depends on how you like your platformers. Talewind's main character proceeds through various environments, running, jumping, and gliding, generally from left to right. As you progress through the game's wide open stages, you'll encounter a small number of enemies, most of which serve as nothing more than simple obstructions between you and the stage's end goal. They're all dispatched with one hit from your wind attack, except for the bosses. But the player character is just as fragile, and many of the levels are designed around this conceit. There are times when drafts or slopes will push you into unknown territory, only for you to land in a hazard. There are other situations hinging on excessive placement of one type of enemy, showcasing a lack of developer creativity compared to series the studio claims are its inspirations. Despite this, controls are tight, so at least you won't have to fight them when placed in the sometimes unfair scenarios. The game world itself consists of the character's village, which serves as the hub, and sections of the mountain the character must climb throughout his journey. Each section serves as an act, with acts broken into 2 stages and a boss encounter. Each stage has 3 completion objectives: collecting a certain number of feathers, speedy completion, and discovery of well-placed crystals. Completing these trials for each act unlocks special stages which can be accessed from portals in one of the village houses. While including stage completion challenges is welcome, increasing the potential replay value of the game, there are issues. The part times for the time trials are possibly the tightest of any platformer, exploration of the various levels for crystals is a massive chore without a map, and there is no way to easily repeat stage 2 of any act. This is particularly egregious since later levels become incredibly long and difficult, so attempting, say, Act 4 to Act 2 for the time trial can be a real slog. Boss encounters are easy by comparison, with extremely simple patterns and rather slow movement. The single exception is Act 4, whose boss is the most difficult in the game. Talewind's graphics can be breathtaking at times. Every visual element in the game is hand-drawn or painted, with the highlight in that department being the multi-layered background and foreground objects. The music is atmospheric, ranging in tone from whimsical in earlier areas to heavy and moody further on. The characters that move are well animated, though it's very obvious that less work went into the colors when designing the enemies, and Act 4's boss is especially ugly. It might be possible that the visual clash was intentional, but if so, this isn't expressed in the supplemental material. Also odd are certain user interface choices, including a heads-up display that unnecessarily dims over time, to the various text boxes that simply pop up when you step near people or objects, to the lack of a simple level select menu. Even entering village houses requires pressing down instead of up. There are times during play when holding a directional button inside a jet stream results in unintended effects, and collision boxes for enemies and objects are sometimes too large or non-existent, leading to unintended deaths. Or maybe they are intended. This is a hardcore platformer after all. Or is it? Talewind is odd. Its developer would have you believe it was heavily inspired by old platformers of days gone by. I mean, even the name of the first boss is simply Sonic the Hedgehog spelled backwards. However, its deceptive difficulty places it more in the realm of precision platformer territory, which is fine, but those games tend to showcase their difficulty openly. Other games in the genre also tend to have better controls, gimmicks, and overall design. This game is simply not recommended for most players looking for the whimsical casual experience advertised, and not really for the hardcore players either due to the game's many issues. Unless you're a masochist. Okay, so I know I was particularly hard on this game, but my honest opinion is the game isn't polished and not really worth your time or money. Not when you can spend a bit more to buy a solid game like Owlboy. If you're interested in seeing what that game is all about, check out my short gameplay video linked here. If you're in the market for something more akin to classic Sonic, take a look at Freedom Planet if you haven't already. Give me a comment down below to let me know what your favorite old school platformers are, and I won't mind if your hand slips a bit and you hit the old like button. That'd help me out. And there's always more videos on the way, and you can click on my dumb face to subscribe and make sure you see them. But then again, I'm not your dad or anything. Why are you even listening to me? But seriously, I love you. Do all the stuff I said.